Hi, this is Nahid and welcome. Today we're going to talk about setting goals within the context of the change process. And you'll learn how the change process and knowing it can make a big impact on your ability to succeed at the various goals you set. So there are a lot of different models of change, but they all tend to follow the same pattern. Change always happens in a process where there's three sort of major parts, major stages. The first one is always kind of an initial clarity and excitement as you think about your new initiative or your goal or the thing that you want to change, and kind of initial burst of energy. And then that's phase one. But then phase two, you get into what I'm calling the slog here, what I've called the marathon in my prior um, model, what Seth Godin calls the dip in his model. But it's a period where things don't go so easily. So you sort of run out of that initial energy, and then things get hard because you haven't seen results yet, you haven't built habits yet, you haven't acted enough to get results. And that's when people get discouraged, they feel like they're failing, they give up. And that's why New Year's resolutions tend to be given up right towards the end of January, the beginning of February, because that's usually when the slog hits. That's usually when that second stage hits. And um, the second stage, the beginning of the second stage is, oh my gosh, I can't believe what this is going to take. It's going to take so much more effort than I thought it would to succeed. So there's sort of a realization there. And then you launch in to this effort and you're either very determined and you stick it through, or you're not very determined and eventually you give up. So that's kind of phase two. Now, if you do kind of go through your big phase two, which I'm calling the slog here, you then get into phase three, which is a building of momentum and finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel and getting results. Now, in my model here, I have a fourth stage, which is completion, and that's when you've actually achieved your goal. So I'm going to go through each of these stages for you because knowing about them is going to make all the difference in the world in terms of you being persistent, determined, and keeping the stamina and the action going long enough to get great results on the things that you're working towards. So phase one, the beginning, what to expect in the first phase of any new change process, whether it's a new goal that you're trying to achieve or change in an organization, is often excitement and commitment. And there's initial signs of progress, and there might be a few missteps, but for the most part, you're starting to move forward. So usually in the first week or so of a weight loss program, you lose a few pounds. But then in the third, fourth, and fifth week, you stop losing weight pretty quickly. So it gets frustrating. The common pitfall in the stage one is expecting the whole process to feel like the first week or two. The keys to success are to prepare for it to get harder before the end. So it's kind of like pacing yourself if you're going to be running a marathon and moving to the next stage. So you start losing that initial momentum and you start realizing how much effort it will actually take if you want to see the results that you're looking for. One thing I'm going to add about stage one when it comes to starting a business, because some of you have seen my emotional stages of change model, is that we have this thing called the panic, elation, panic cycle in stage one. So you can have a lot of really big highs and really big lows in the beginning, in the first stage, because it's really exciting to get those first few signs of success. And then it's really kind of devastating to start feeling like you're failing before you even started. So you kind of get real big highs and real deep lows in phase one. So if you're experiencing that, it's normal. All right, let's move to phase two. So phase two, I'm going to call the slog or the marathon. What happens is you start to realize that this will be harder than you thought it was, but you're determined to do the work. So this stage takes consistent effort with uncertainty about the payoff. The thing that makes stage two so hard is that you don't really get results. You might get a few small results, but you don't really get the results that you're looking for a long period of time. Now, every once in a while, somebody gets lucky and they get results sooner than they expected. But for the most part, the slog means lots of action and maybe very inconsistent results, not enough to sustain you or feel like you've really succeeded. So the common pitfall in phase two is because you're not getting results, you believe you're not making any progress at all. You discount the few results that you've gotten, and it's kind of like, well, this isn't working. And that's when we throw our hands up and go, this is just not working. It's not worth it, blah, blah, blah. So the key to success in the slog is not to give up, to celebrate small wins, and to systemize with small habits to conserve energy. So think about running a marathon. You want to conserve your resources. You want to keep your pace. You don't want to start running super fast in the middle of a marathon because you'll exhaust yourself and stop. It's the same thing with the slog. You have to figure out a way to continue to take action in a steady way, but not in a way that exhausts or drains you. So this means, like, let's say you're trying to sell something. You continue to make at least a couple of phone calls a day, even though you know ideally you're not going to get results until you're making 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 calls a day. But when it takes so much energy to make those calls and it's really hard, then you want to find something small that will keep you moving. It's kind of like baby steps, but will keep you taking the actions. What happens is you build from there. And that's what moving to the next stage happens. So as you get into a system of doing the behaviors that you need to do to succeed, then those behaviors become habitual. Once those behaviors become habitual, you start feeling, literally feeling a change in your momentum. You start getting more little successes, and it starts taking less energy to do the things you need to do to get success. And that's when we move into the building momentum stage, which is stage 3. You finally start seeing signs of success. You feel confident that what you're doing is leading you in the right direction. The biggest pitfall in stage 3 is thinking you're done and no longer have to attend to the work. So you still have to attend to doing the work. So we're getting into a stride in our run here. You just can't sit down and take a big long break, because then you won't have any energy left to get back up and run again. So you still need to stay in your pattern, but it's getting easier. Whatever it is, whatever actions you're taking, you can't just quit. So I've done this before. Worked so hard to get a result, got the first result, and then sat back and thought, oh, no, now I've got it. Now the results are just going to come easily. And they don't. So they come easier, but they don't come if you don't keep doing the action. So that's the big pitfall in stage 3. And you want to keep leveraging continuous improvement and efficiency. So your goal in stage 3 is to just keep getting more and more efficient with what you're doing. And then moving to the next stage, which some change models don't even identify, but whatever it takes to make this is already ingrained in what you do. So when you get to phase 4, which I call the paradox in my other model, but here I'm calling it completion, it's you stop thinking about this as a goal because you've already achieved it. You finally changed your eating habits so that they're so automatic that if you wanted to go back to eating the way you used to eat, it would actually be harder to do. So that's how you know that you've kind of gotten to the last stage of change, which is now no longer part of change. It's just the kind of the bow at the top. But what that does is it signals you that now you really are done and you can stop paying attention. And now you have the time and space to think about your next initiative. So this is the process of change. And why is it important? It's so important because I've seen so many people give up right as they're entering the slog. And in some cases, it's the right time to give up because you realize, wow, this goal isn't worth the effort. But knowing how long it's going to take, and that you won't get an actual answer. That's the other horrible thing about the slog, is you never know how long it's going to take. And that's what makes it a slog. You're taking all these actions. You're hoping that the actions will yield results, but you don't yet have evidence that the actions will yield results, and the actions are taking a lot of energy. That's what makes it a slog. But if you can get through that to the light at the end of the tunnel, and the other problem is you never know when you're going to get through that, then you really get the joy of having succeeded at something that's really important to you. So knowing in advance that there's going to be a slog and preparing yourself for it is one of the most important keys to success. And if you need a little help to get through your slog, we have a growth program where we have groups of people who are working together to achieve their goals. And it also gives you some support from me individually as well, just go to the website if you're interested in learning more about it. And meanwhile, good luck to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.